God morgon. Good morning, everybody. We're going to do this session in English because we have one girl from the UK who speaks English, so it's going to be a whole English event, I think. We'll see. My name is Jana Christensen. I used to be a project manager at Medtech for Health, but I'm also a patient advocate. I've worked with patient participation for almost 20 years in different areas of life science. And now I'm here on stage presenting Patients Den together with amazing dragons and amazing pictures. I'm going to start with presenting the dragons who will be with us here today. I have one on stage, Sandra. Sandra works with building permits here in Luleå, so she's from Luleå and she loves the nature. She used to be a board member of Unga Reumatiker, and as well as me, she has a couple of chronic diseases, and I think that's what ties us together here today, me and the dragons. So Sandra, welcome.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will enjoy this session. I do think I will.
I think I will.
Yes. And then with us on link, we have Jennifer Camaradou from the UK.
Good morning, everybody.
Jenny,
Very happy to be
can you
here
hear
today.
us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Jenny, can you hear us?
Yes,
Awesome.
I can hear you.
Jenny is with us from the UK. Jenny is a UPATI fellow. She's also been trained by Eurordis, and she works with clinicians and researchers as a partner within patient research. She does a lot of work like this, so it'll be interesting to hear her international angle on the pictures talks. And then on link as well, we have Thomas Larsson. Thomas Larsson is the head of Funktionsrätt Skåne, which is the umbrella organization that ties patient organizations together. So that's our three dragons that are going to talk today. And then we have our three pictures. But I'm not going to present them. They will present themselves when they present their questions. So a bit ahead of time, I think we'll go to Annika.
Well, good morning. And
Good morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this Patient Den. It's an honor to be here today and also being the first one to ask a question to the panel. So a little bit who I am. I'm a speech language pathologist by training. And I have worked with, for example, patients that have suffered from stroke and other neurological communication disorders. Since the days I was a researcher, I have been fascinated by health-related wearables that can track data to spur behavioral change and improve health conditions and quality of life. But nowadays, I focus on innovative medtech at my work at EIT Health, which is an organization co-funded by the European Union. And there we strive towards being a health innovation platform, also working to facilitate longer, healthier lives. So with this background, I'm happy to be here today. And what we do also in EIT Health, we really do need a proper patient-centric approach involving patients in our activities and programs. And that's why I'm also a little bit eager to ask my question. And the background to that is that we in EIT Health, we do different things, but we also calls for funding. And we, for example, work towards new models to deliver healthcare. But we also have focus on digital medical devices in Europe, and also harnessing the potential of health data for innovation. And this is something I would like to ask about, because we heard yesterday, I think, a little bit about the European health data space that is meant to empower individuals through increased digital access to control of their personal health data. And this is a EU-wide then initiative. But we also know that on the Swedish agenda, access and sharing of health data is very topical. So, for example, one patient we met recently at one of our event was saying that, knowing that I can access my personal data easily is good for both my mental and neurological health. And she also said that I believe many patients are positive to sharing their health data if they believe it can help others. So this willingness to share one own data could obviously benefit maybe research and so for other patients. But how do patients feel about that? Do they trust the system? And also not thinking that, my data will be misused in any way. And working in a European organization, I have the impression that this trust in, healthcare systems and governments, incentives is a little bit different. So I do think that in Scandinavia, we in general, we believe in our authorities and so on, and we have a good trust. But I would like to ask the panel this, and really, if I formulate my question and get back to me if it's not clear enough. But you as patients, how can you help organizations such as EIT Health and others that also drive policy questions regarding health data? With your voice speaking up, how can you help us to reimagine health systems, improve care, and foster health equity by promoting sharing of health data? So are patients more willing to share data than, for example, regulations that we have allow for? So this is my question. Willingness to share data, and also how you see this could then improve our future way of delivering healthcare.
So Annika's question is, how do you as patients relate to sharing your data in order to build healthcare throughout Europe? And do you think that there's a difference between a Swedish patient and a patient out in Europe? Are we more trusting than others? But I'm not going to start with you. I'm going to start with Jenny from the UK. Jenny, what's your take on data sharing, and how can we as patients help build healthcare in Europe by sharing our data?
I think, as Annika alluded to, there are very different cultural specific contextual reasons why people have different perceptions of data altruism. So I think in theory, most patients that I know want to be embedded in the design of research and actually want their secondary data usage to actually help other patients sort of get better care. But I think the actual roadblocks are more to do with the implementation. So I think in general, and most patients want to support the initiatives, but the actual practical implementation can sometimes prove a little bit challenging. So I think there needs to be far more subtle nuances of stratifying insight at the different stages of the information process, and stronger governance frameworks that can actually embed that and utilize it to create customizable journeys, really.
Thank you so much. Thomas, what's your take on sharing data and helping to build the healthcare environment by doing so?
Well, of course, this is a very positive thing to use to how can I be better in my health, but sometimes it's a little bit scary. It's how can I know as a patient how the data is used? We're a little bit we must have lots of trust of them who are gathering the data, and I think it's needs much more information and cooperation with patients organization about we build up this form of data gathering, I think. So I don't know if we are more positive in Sweden generally, but I think the most important is how can I be sure that the data is security for me and others. And again, we need a lot more of education about this. And we're gonna speak discuss in our organization about this. What is the benefits? What's the maybe the problems, dangerous, and so on. So positive, but a little bit warning finger in the air, maybe.
Super, Thomas. I totally agree with you. So, Sandra, what do you say about sharing of data and helping to build the healthcare space with your own data and gathering others?
Yeah, I actually think it's a good idea. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good idea from the beginning, but I think that we also have to be thinking about security, who's going to take care of all the data, who's responsible if something happened with the data, and how can other countries use the data against us in Sweden, like a political security thing. You know, medications is a good weapon, I think. Yeah. So, but I think that that is a good idea. Just think about some things, and I think that it's that we in Sweden we are probably more acceptant to give our data because we trust our government. But I don't think that in every country they do. So. But I also think that it's dependent on age. I think that younger people are more open for things like this than older people. But that wasn't the question, but yeah.
Super, thank you so much, everybody.
Jenny,
And
sorry. So, Jenny, can I say one more thing?
Yes, of course, Thomas. Chime in.
Yeah, I think it's be very useful to show good ideas and good practice. How this data is a solution for the patients. So more good examples. Show this for us so we can understand. It's important for young people and elderly people, I think. More good examples. Thank you.
May I pitch in there for also picking up on what you said, Thomas, before? I think this sharing good examples, best practices, but also education. You mentioned that word, and I think that is both for patients and citizens, but also obviously everybody working in the healthcare environment, and also like the innovative ecosystem around, to raise awareness and also to raise concerns where patients might have it. So good point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you
I would just
so
like
much.
to add a very quick point, if I can, from the UK. They've done studies on public attitudes to artificial intelligence, and there's subtle differences between disease areas. So if you're dealing with a rare disease or an emotive disease like pediatric cancer, people are far more open to sharing their data than if it's an innovation that is, you know, in the diagnostics sort of field. So I think I agree. Case studies and practical implementation examples of what to do when things go wrong, I think, can build public trust.
Yeah. So I think what ties everybody together is that we need information. If we don't get the training and know what the data is to be used for, we might not be that willing to give it up. Agree? Correct. Yeah. And I have the same feeling, and we need to get that education in place because we want precision medicine to work, for instance. That would be awesome for us as patients, not having to try 15 different drugs before one finally works, but being able to be more precise. So, Annika, I think we have something to work on there, patients and EIT Health perhaps, and other organizations to get this information in place, because you won't get a better answer than you ask the question. And everybody says they're willing to share the data, but what have they actually been asked? So Annika, are you happy with your answers?
Very much so. And also happy to continue talking after this event if anyone would like to get back to us. But very happy, and now also eager to listen to other questions.
Super. Thank you so much, Annika. Then we're going to go forward and talk to one of our pitchers that I have here on stage. Fredrik Öberg from Umeå. Please join me.
Thank you for the opportunity to present my project. I had prepared this presentation in Swedish, so I'll give it in Swedish and then a short summary in English. I hope it's okay. Jag är docent i medicinteknik och jobbar då på Norrlands universitetssjukhus. Och jag kommer att presentera ett projekt som är tänkt att användas inom primärvården. Och projektet, om man tittar på projektet, det fokuserar då på att försöka diagnostisera örorelaterade problem. Det är så att i världen så är det ett stort problem att ställa diagnos. När det gäller just då, om det är så att man har en öroninflammation till exempel eller andra problem. Och det här är någonting som gör då att man ofta sätter in antibiotika i onödan. Och det här är också någonting som gör då att man får, det finns ju risk då för att man får antibiotikaresistenta bakterier. Och då har vi tagit fram en mobilapp med en inbyggd AI-lösning för att kunna då stödja vårdpersonal när de ska ställa diagnos av de här rörrelaterade problemen. Och som ni ser på bilderna här då, så är det då tanken att man ska kombinera att man samlar in anamnes, alltså sjukdomshistorik, med att man tar bilder av trumhinnan och hörselgången. Och även att man gör mätningar av ett ljud som reflekteras mot trumhinnan och kombinerar all den här informationen då och låter då ett AI-nätverk i mobiltelefonen då klassificera den här informationen. Och som ni tittar på bilden till höger där, så det kan vara till exempel att man säger att det är infektion eller om det är normalt eller om det är för mycket vax i örat. Det här projektet är stöds bland annat med Medicinteknik for Health som det står där nere. Det var kort på svenska. Och om man nu ska göra en kort summering på engelska, så it's a global problem to diagnose air-related problems. This has led to an over prescription of antibiotics, so that this solution is intended to support medical staff when they want to make the diagnosis of this related problem. So this solution is based on information, medical history, and also on otoscopic images of the eardrum, and finally of sound that is reflected from the eardrum. We combine this information and let an AI application inside the mobile phone make a prediction if the patient has some kind of air-related problem. And this solution is intended for not only for physicians, it can be other kind of medical staff that can do this examination. For the moment, we are testing this application in the primary care in Region Västerbotten. So that is a short summary of our project.
Thank you so much, Fredrik. So, Dragons, now we need your thoughts. And I think we're going to start with Thomas, since Thomas has a hearing disability. So I think he's the perfect guy to kick off this discussion. What do you think about Fredrik's solution, feedback, and maybe some questions for Fredrik?
Yes, it's. I've been working with hard of hearing organization for about 40 years, and I have a hard of hearing myself. But I personally have not so many problems with this kind of problem that you show us in your application. But I think it's a great idea and a great solution. We only know that too much antibiotic is a problem. And can we do also, when you have patients and use this equipment on them, especially children, is this less, not so scary at the moment when you do this? And how safe is it to be sure what the results is, how safe it is? Can you say something about that? But the idea is great.
I can, yes, of course. So, Thomas, is your question, how adequate is it if you use the solution? Yeah, exactly. How adequate is it?
Can you trust on this?
Okay. Well, we have made some tests of this network. We have used like 1,000 different images of the eardrum and ear canal. We have an accuracy of say 85-90% of a correct prediction. Is that the answer to your question?
Yes, thank you. So it's a safe application, and it's more easy to use, I think. It's easier for the health staff to use.
So Thomas' question is it easier for the health staff to use than to do the ordinary testing? So why should you move from the old version to your version if you look beyond antibiotics?
Okay. The problem is that the physicians at the primary care, it's difficult for them to make the diagnosis. So they say they make like a correct prediction in 60% of each when they want to set the diagnosis, and that is why it's this over prescription of antibiotics. So I mean the solution give a better prediction than the medical staff or the physician.
Perfect. I think that answered your question, Thomas. Are you satisfied?
Absolutely. One thing maybe is it more easy for the patients to understand.
Can you say that again, Thomas? Once again.
When you use this application, it is more easy for the patients to understand how they search for what is it. Is it a problem with the ears or not? It's easier in the, when you meet the doctor or the physicians, it's easier to understand for the patients.
Yeah, I think
I understand. To share
what,
data.
I think I understand what you're going through. Do you understand, Fredrik? Yeah.
Well, when you look at AI applications, it's very important to give the output in an explainable way. You have seen posters and also other presentations here at this Medicinteknikdagarna, where they present this explainable AI has that kind of focus. So it's very important to explain the output in a way that the medical staff understand, so that they get more. They feel confident in the result.
And adding to Thomas's question, is it possible to use the application to to make your patient understand what's going on? So is there a way to use the app for the patient to build their awareness as well?
Well, maybe. I mean, you get like a diagnosis, a prediction, and also you can have some kind of activation map, so you can see where the AI look in the picture. But I think the information is more intended for the medical staff, I think.
All right. Thomas, are you happy with the answers?
Absolutely, thank you.
Super. So I think that we found that one way to build it is to build like a way for the patient to actually see what's going on. Yeah, so we have one, but we have Sandra left, so we might have more. Sandra, kick it away.
Yeah, actually, I use one kind of application, but for asthma. And then I can follow my what's the word? History. Yeah. So I can see when it's downs and ups, and that's actually kind of interesting. So I think that would be a great thing to add to your application. And that's also shared with the healthcare, because it's the region who gave me that one. So we share, and I like that. So I can see it, what I'm doing.
That's perfect, because some of us really like to do that. All right. Jenny, do you have any thoughts on Fredrik's application for detecting hearing inflammations or infections?
I think if I've understood correctly, it does have partial clinical validation and efficacy data and CE marking, right? So it's a clinical decision support tool more than a patient-facing information tool, right?
Can you do that again? Once again.
Yeah. It's a clinical decision support tool which has CE marking.
Is
Does
it
it
CE
have-
marked yet, or is it just still a research project?
Well, actually, it's a research project, but it's like a translational project. So as I told the audience here, that this application is now tested in the primary care here in Västerbotten on a healthcare center. So I mean, the focus, I mean, is to actually use the application in the end in the primary care or at other healthcare centers.
Did that
And I
answer your
think
question, Jenny? Do you have another one?
No, I think then in principle it's a great idea to try and embed patient preferences in alignment with patient-reported outcomes in any sort of consumer-facing design. But if the plan is to try and work towards CE marking and or regulatory sort of pathway approval, I think what I see in the UK, and I work for a grant which gives foreign companies money to scale their AI innovation in the UK if they have CE marking. We always notice that there's a problem with the evaluation and the monitoring of the effectiveness of the patient engagement strategy. So I think, as Thomas has said, raising awareness and working with patient organizations in the life cycle of the product, not just on the design of the usability or the sort of accessibility aspects, but actually on embedding patient preferences to make the product more effective earlier on in the cycle is, I think, the way forward. But if you do get CE marking in Sweden and you want to get between 1.5 and 3 million sterling pounds, then there is money in the UK that will actually fast track you to do that.
Super. I have a question as well, Fredrik, because we do have some time. Are these infections that you get a lot? I used to be one of those ear children who had ear infection all the time. So is this something that you get a lot or just once in a while?
For the same as a person or child?
Or child.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you told us, I mean, there are some people that get this infection on, a couple of times. So it's a rather common problem. I mean, at this healthcare center that we are testing this application now, 2 weeks ago we have 8 patients that was tested with this. So I mean, it's a rather common problem, and also, of course, I mean, different times of the year. During winter time, it's more common than during summertime.
Makes total sense, because then I can sort of correlate to, we have joint diseases, me and Sandra, and we like to follow our disease over time to make conclusions on what we can and cannot do, or we shouldn't do, or we should do. So if you have like a child who has multiple ear infections, could it be an idea to share the data with the parent, for instance, so they can draw conclusions of what little Svenne shouldn't do in order to not get an infection?
I think that was a rather tricky question. Actually, I don't know. I mean, do you think if, like, some guidance, you shouldn't be outside, you shouldn't be, always have something on your head, so you don't get cold, or is that what you are after?
Well, I think that the parent could choose themselves and sort of put in their own parameters. Like little Svenne went swimming in February and didn't come home with a cap on or something like that. So they can try to rule out the stuff that makes Svenne's earaches. Because then you have then you have that relationship with the patients.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, like a guidance for the. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that could be integrated, but I don't think perhaps it's focusing on the diagnosis probably, but it's more like a guidance for the parents and other people.
Super. So, Fredrik, are you happy with the answers you got from the dragons and the ideas? Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much. So then we're moving on. And our next picture, or I'm not really sure what she's going to do. Maybe she's going to do a dance. That's the new director of MedTech for Health, Lena. Welcome, and take your time.
Thank you. It's really nice being here. Actually, it's anniversary day today. I realized when I was sitting in the sofa, it's 30 years since I participated in my first Medicinteknikdagarna. Then I worked as a biomedical engineer in Stockholm at Sabbatsbergs sjukhus. So that's really nice. I have 15 years in the Swedish innovation support system. It's my 4th day on my new job. What could be better to start here, because this first day today at YouTube. So it's a really anniversary day. I'm so glad to be here, because this is what we really are for. We are for everyone and each of us. We are our patient, or we will be. That's actually something we know. And that's why the medtech industry exists. We need to support the healthcare system. And I'm so glad to be the new program director, because this is a very important program. It's one of 17 strategic innovation programs financed by Vinnova, Energimyndigheten och Formas. We're starting the etap 3. We are focusing even more on patient centricity. So that's why I'm really proud to hosting this morning. What is a strategic innovation program? Well, we're trying to bring all stakeholders together to meet the needs to make the healthcare system more efficient, but also strengthen the medical technology industry in Sweden. But we also have an important role as develop the Swedish, make Sweden and recognize international for excellence in medical technology. And this we can only do together, academia, business, patients, and healthcare. So I've actually 2 questions today. I can't help myself. Considering the fact that we work with a couple of tools, we do have calls, we do knowledge transfer like we do today actually. We also have an innovation portfolio or project of more than 350 innovation projects. So one of my questions is connected to that. How can we actually, in a structured, systemic way, help those projects be even more patient-oriented to increase the speed so we can use their innovation in healthcare. That's one. And the other one is how we as a program can support this connection between patients and industry, or project, more to say, because sometimes we have other stakeholders as well. So that's my 2 questions.
Perfect. So hold on. Here comes some answers or wise thoughts from our dragons. Sandra, do you want to start?
Pretty interesting. I wasn't knowing what we were going to talk about, so this was a surprise. Yeah, I think that the easiest way to support is to hire patients to get in your organization, so that they always can be part of the Meditech. So I think that's the easiest way, actually.
I need to follow up that one. Consider the fact that we have 350 innovation projects with a wide diversity of technology. How can we do that? Because they need different kinds of patients.
You have to search for people with many diseases at the same time. That's the easiest. but try to find that. Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
So multi-sig people who wants to work within medtech, call Lena. That's amazing. Yeah, we just solved everything.
Yeah, I solved everything. No, patients' organizations is actually the best thing, and the next best thing after the first. Yeah. Because they, for the most of the time, have people who can answer your questions and are willing to be a part of it.
That's, taking over. How can we do that in a structured way, systemic? We talk about sharing knowledge, but also we can't hire an organization. So how can we actually collaborate for real?
I think that you start to build a trust between each other, and when you see that, this project maybe needs someone who got a rheumatic disease, and then you start to talk with them, because there's lots of rheumatic people in Sweden. So you start to talk with them, and then probably can say, you should talk to this person. That person is probably willing to answer your question, and they can be your guide, or
So let's move on. Jenny, do you have an idea for Lena on how to bring more patient thoughts into Medtech for Health and help the portfolio?
I think one of the key ways is what Sandra said, to engage earlier on in the process with a lot of different patient organizations to get stratified insight. So you need the variety. You need a person with lived experience. You need a patient advocate who maybe works for a patient organization, and you need a patient expert that perhaps understands the regulatory pathway and technical challenges. And I'm not sure where UPATI is in Sweden, but as training goes, it does provide a thorough level of insight. So if we look to the Americans, the US NIH has the fair market value calculator, which stratifies patient insight in different levels. And I think to do patient engagement well in a systematic, measurable way, you need to embed and mix and match and learn from things that have worked before. From previous European projects, the EMI paradigm tool, which I think is utilized internally with most of industry. I know I work with Roche and AbbVie and Janssen also use it. It's a methodological framework that measures what you're doing in patient engagement and how you can create KPIs from it. So if you're doing pre-early, pre-discovery, that would be different. If you're doing post-marketing authorization, if you're doing a phase 4 trial versus if you're designing an app. So again, my key message would be it's not a one-size-fits-all. You need a variety, and you need different and divergent views and different ways of embedding those views the earlier the possible. So you need patients to help you prioritize the research and decide and co-design the projects, and you need patients to test things in different stages. I don't know if that answers the questions.
Yes, thank you. But I know that UK is really good at this. Do you have any, top 3? What's the success factors for you?
One of the things that's utilized quite a lot is something called the James Lind Alliance. It's a facilitation method where you have researchers, clinicians, academics, and patient organizations to actually design and prioritize the research in terms of what needs to be built and when. Also, there are different projects with the EMI, Innovative Medicines Initiative, or IHI. The Paradigm tool is very, very good. It has a 7-year track record. So again, I would say that is a very good tool. It's called Patient-Focused Medicine Development, PFMD. Within the UK, we have 4 particular evaluation tools, British Medical Journal GRIP2 and the CUBE framework, but that's really more about citizen engagement. So it's not about patient engagement, it's about public involvement. So it's broader in concept. So I guess it really depends on what you wanted to do and why, and how you can align any commercial priority with patient engagement in a way that's metric driven. So I always say patient engagement isn't a nice thing to have, it's part of your essential KPIs. And if you're not embedding it within the governance of an EU project, you better hope it doesn't end up on my evaluation as an EU external expert, because I will send it back and say you're not doing this as effectively as you could do.
Super. So last but not least, Thomas, how do you think that MedTech for Health can or should embed patients in their in the program in order to help the projects?
Yeah, so I have a little bit technical problems. I'm being in and out under this session. Sorry about that. So, but I hear the questions, so I try to answer it. Well, the first thing we had a month ago, we had present a user guide together with MedTech for Health. A user guide how we can work together with companies, and it's a very good user guide, we think, and it's been worked with this under a year, so it's very clear what is the problem, how can we do together with patients organization, and the main thing is start early, also in the beginning of the ideas, take the patients and patients organization in the project under the ideas startups, and in this user guide we also have I search for the English utvärdering, evolution, no? Yes,
Evaluation.
Yes, thank you. So after and under the cooperation it works, how does the work together going? So all, not in the last part of the cooperation, and so all the time have a discuss how can the patient's organization be a good part of the work. So that was my first input for the first question. The second question, if I understand it right, make some what you say. Why we have for another example, we have environment. It's very important to work with. You can sign in that in the project's utlysning, what is the English word? Utlysning. When they ask how do you get money for new projects, write it on that it's very important to take patients' organization with them in the starts. It's much more easier to get projects money for this. I think it's a very good thing to do to make more cooperation together. So the example for environment was that many projects can't find or get money if they don't explain how that is work for the environment. So copy that for the patient's focus, I think. Do you understand what I mean?
Thank you for very good examples of how we can do it, and I'm looking forward to discuss it further on when we are looking into how our calls are made and how our projects are created, and so we actually really can to work this in a systemic way, because I think we need to do that considering the fact that we have so many projects in our portfolio and more to come considering that we have calls out right now. So thank you so much.
You want my take? Yeah. I agree with all the others that you need to start at the top. You really need to make sure that it matters. And I think you do by having us here on stage. But I also think that even though Thomas and Sandra is going to bite my head off, I don't think that patient organizations is the total solution. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No, but they have so many layers of people that has to make decisions. So if you ask them, it takes like 4 months to get one person, and you have no idea who you're going to get. So I think you need to build a relationship so that the relationship is so good that you can go to the organization and say, hey, I want Sandra. Because then it's going to work. Otherwise, you can get anybody and you have no idea who that person is. And I also think that we need to lower the fear threshold, because during my time at Medic for Health, I thought there were a lot of fears on asking anything, because everybody was so scared of asking the wrong thing. And I told everybody that, but just ask. The worst thing that can happen is that you get a no or go away, I don't want to talk to you. So you need to be able to take that, because we can't build Rome in one day. So we need to start somewhere. And I think with all those projects in the portfolio, I mean, they are already there. They have passed the call. So work on the calls, but also teach the portfolio how to address patient organizations or patients, where to find them and help them. So just open the door and say, if you want a patient, you should want a patient to have a voice in your project or your company. Call us, we'll help you. We have this enormous address book, so just let us help you get there, and by that building the base. Yeah, I think that could be a way forward. Do you have another question for the dragons, because we have some time?
What would you like us to do? As a representative today, as patients, what do you like the industry to do? Really operational, not on a strategic level. How to be involved, and how can we support that?
Yeah, I think I have to send it. I have to send it to the Santa Claus, I think. I think that every time you talk about something for the patient, you should talk to a patient about it. I know that's a huge thing, but that's a wish, and I know that it's just a wish. Probably not work it out, but it's also like Jenny said, that you should not be feared of asking questions, because I got the question, if you turn your glasses upside down, will the world be upside down then? And that was an adult normal function. So it's okay, you can ask any question. So yeah.
Jenny, do you have any wise words for Lena? If you can make a wish list for MedTech for Health, what should Lena go back and do in order to enhance patient engagement within the program?
I think the earlier you can involve a patient, the better. But I would also like to say, make sure that you remunerate them fairly and in proportion with your national or international standards, because a lot of patients, you don't wake up one morning thinking you're going to be a patient advocate. You're either doing it because you can help other families go through less misery than you did, or because you want to promote scientific or innovation development in your area. You should therefore be remunerated for the skills and advice that you're giving. So don't just think of patients as a tool, but think of them as equal decision makers and partners in any process that you involve them.
Perfect. Thomas,
Yes.
what do you want Lena to do when she gets back to Stockholm? Call you, or should she call somebody else?
Well, I must have a little bit comments to you, Jenny, about the challenge when you ask our organizations for help, and maybe you don't get an answer. So, therefore, the guide I have this year here, the guide, user guide, is a good example and help for this. The difference between have a person with disabilities and when you go to the organization of disabilities. It's a challenge between them, but it's very important to understand the difference between these. I myself can speak as Thomas. I have several kinds of disabilities. I have a rare disease. I have a lot of experience about this. But in my job, I have a patient's organizations of umbrellas and many organizations, and a little bit difference when we are cooperation with others. So it's not, I'm not mad at you, of course, but it's a different when you take a patient from the street and when you go to the patient's organization. Sorry about that. I'm sitting in Malmö in Sweden, the south part, and you are understanding the north part of it. So we are long way, but I think you understand what I mean again. But it's a different when you take one person and when you take your organization for help. Mm-hmm.
So, Thomas, am I the patient from the street then? Is that what I'm going to hear here? I'm sort of offended, but okay, I'll let it slide. Comment, Lena, on the patient from the street.
Actually, what is a patient from the street? It's a beautiful expression. I think I'm really interested in this question because it's easy, in a way, to call a patient organization, and by that we are usually meeting those who are interested and engaged. So in that sense, it's right. How can we make everybody involved? Not everybody, but with a quotation. And how do we reach out? Where can we use our voice? Where are the channels for our voice to you? Not the organization, but to each and every one. Because there might be a lot of people out there interested to participate with a lot of knowledge. The multi-sick one could be. But we don't. How do we reach out? Because usually our channels are for us around the table that we usually talk to. So that we need to be creative here, and we need to take in new perspective on how to reach and how to pronounce the question and how to actually help others to phrase the question and give it.
I think that's a common problem between you and the patient organizations because they have a hard time finding members. So you need to find the healthcare naive people who are not brainwashed like me and Sandra, and that's a hard one. So yeah, almost, aren't we? I'm the patient from the street.
Yeah, I'm the patient from the street too. So yeah, that's actually a good question. How can we find it? And patient organizations also seen that it's easier to make children to be a part of it, and also people who is older than 60. But everything between 30 and 60 is impossible. So that's actually really good questions.
So we need to reach out with that question and ask for help in the community. Do you have any good example how to reach out? So please give me a call or an email, because this is really important, I think. Yeah.
Are you happy with your answers or feedback, Lena?
Yes, very much. Thank you. I've been noting a lot of activities for the program to deal with on Monday.
Super. And we're looking forward to you telling us what you've done on Thursday at the latest. Yeah. That's fine. It's time to sum it up. Our hour is almost out. It's been a lot of fun. We need to do it again, right?
Yeah.
Next year, same place? No?
No, Stockholm.
Stockholm? Oh, Sandra will be in Stockholm. I hope all of you guys will be in Stockholm, and you will be in Stockholm as well. I thought we're just going to sum it up by asking our amazing dragons pretty quick, what will you take home from the discussions today when you get back to your building permit office and start thinking about what you're going to do in your organization or how you can help improve healthcare?
Yeah, I have to start to think about how I can involve people in my own age, because that seems like a problem. One of the first thing the rheumatic organization here in Luleå said was, "Oh, you're only 30 and you're here. What happened?"
All right, that's a good one. Jenny, what's your take and what do you take home from the discussions today?
Quite a lot, but I think that the key message would be to try and create stratified levels of insight. So in the UK, we have PPIE, patient engagement and public involvement, and you need different creative engagement approaches for both. So I think involving the community is great to try and boost, I imagine, very good levels of health literacy anyway. But there's a lot of different things that can be done from a preventative health point of view, which I think you guys have amazing registries, and I get the impression you have far more longitudinal data sets than we do. So I think, the earlier you can engage with people in different levels, the better.
Super. Thomas, you're the last one. What do you take home from today, more than that I'm easily offended?
The first thing is a very big interest of cooperation. It's a very good positive thing. We want to do a lot of things together. It's a very good positive start. But the second is it's a very big challenge to do this. How can we do it with patients from the street or from the organization, and how can we get some good answer and the good questions and so on. So our next step for us is to, with the user guide, is to discuss this with our organization. How can we make a good cooperation so we can deliver something? With delivery is a very important thing too. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And thank you, Lena. Thank you, Fredrik. Thank you, Annika online. And thank you guys online as dragons for helping us here today and talking about this, because this is super important. And let's do it soon again. And I think we have 900. So bye, everybody. Thanks for today.